Hi everyone, it's me again, and today we're going to have a look at a paper 2, Challenges in the Human Environment, the first paper 2 of the AQA 8035, an iconic paper. This is, it's the top gun of papers, okay? Now, I don't know when you're watching this video. It could be 2022, it could be 2023, it could be 2024. I am annotating this in 2022, okay? So what that means is, in the course of this annotation, in this walkthrough, I am not going to cover economic world. I am not going to cover economic world. Because in 2022, our students do not need to know this. They don't need to know this for the exam. So if you're watching this in the future, if you're one of my old year 10s, or if you are watching this from another school, be really clear on what sections you are doing. So my school, for example, we are doing urban, because you have to, resource management, and then the water subtopic. So, you know what? Let's just start to go through it. Now remember, this is not a content teach really. I'm not here to teach the content of these questions. I am here to teach the structure of them. I'm here to show you a paper so you can get a bit of an idea of what to expect, the formatting of these questions, so the paper is familiar to you. Without further ado, I've not seen this for a long time. Let's have a little look. Multiple choice question. Which term is best defined by the phrase, the increasing percentage of population living in towns and cities? This is urbanisation. Urban sprawl is the unplanned growth of a city, usually, I'm content teaching already, usually into the rural, urban fringe, the edge of the city. Migration is the move of people. Urban regen is when you help to cure dereliction in a city. So urbanisation is the answer. Okay, gap fill task. With these, read and also slow. Okay, too often students will belt through these. The answers can be very subtle in these, so really read it carefully. Again, I'm not going to go through the answers because this is not that. I'm not here to do that, but let's carry on. Right. Pie chart. For rural to urban migration in a region of Pakistan. So we can see push factors which push people out of the countryside. So war, health facilities, family conflict, hostility in the village. So like life in the village is quite dangerous. 2 marks, describe the pattern of reasons for migration. Now in my school, I would teach this as a 2 marker. So this is evidence and comment, I would say. And you want to give an idea, when you're looking for a pattern, you really want to sort of give an idea of like most, least. You should also know as well that I'm having that the kitchen's being redone. So if you hear any sort of drilling or banging or iration, it's the kitchen being fitted. I do apologise. So what we can see here quite clearly is the war on the push factors are the most. So you would identify that. So you would say a pattern I can see is that push factors are the main reason people move. For example, war. Okay. And then you could say, just for a few extra, just for that little security, you could then say whereas pull is smaller. So with a pattern, you're looking for most and least. You're looking to group, aren't you? You don't just want to say one reason people migrate is war on terror, or war against terrorism, because that's not a pattern. You're just describing something. You're just describing what you can see. you need to pattern up. You need to look for those. You need to look for those sort of sequences. Now, this is something they can do in papers. You've got the figure information here, but the question on the next page. Just be aware of that. Okay, look around for that. Okay, sometimes they don't match up. So, using figure 3, suggest. So, a suggest there is just a hidden explain. One problem faced by people in Bangalore as a result of traffic congestion. So, this is basically evidence comment, so 2 marker, and it's basically a hidden explain. And you only want one. So, if we have a look here, what was the question? Sorry. One problem. Well, the roads are poor quality. Public transport's not very good. These two kind of link together. Look, the roads are never repaired. Here we go, look, see. 10 miles to go, sat-nav says an hour and 30 minutes. In an hour and 30 minutes on a British motorway, you should be able to get about 70 miles. I would argue a roundabout. Okay, so it's a long way. Okay, so there's a lot of traffic issues. You have got specific data, so you should try and use it here. Okay. Right, let's carry on. Let's not get bogged down. I don't want to spend too much time really getting into the questions. 1.5, look, is using that figure 3. Immediately, to look at 1.5, it's quite a wordy question. So let's bug it. Using figure 3 in a case study of a city in an LIC or NE to suggest. So there's our command word. Hidden explain. Why managing congestion and air pollution can be challenging. Got to use figure 3 in a case study city. Right, and it's 6 marks. Let's pull this apart a little bit. Just give you a second to think. So we know 6 marks is going to be ECS times 2. To be safe, you probably want a summary at the end. Your case study city, for my guys, is Rio, not Sheffield. You've got to use the figure. And you have got to talk about traffic congestion and air pollution. So effectively what you want is an ECS for that and an ECS for that. So one paragraph, and your stretch wants to try and hook back to keep you targeted on that. Why it's a challenge. Okay. Now with Rio, you're not looking here to throw up all your knowledge onto the page. As I've been saying to you all for a long time, you want to just sprinkle on the knowledge. Sprinkle on the AO1. Okay? Use it tactically, use it intelligently. Now, if I was to give a bit of guidance on this question, I would argue traffic congestion, a big problem for Rio is hemmed in by mountains and the ocean. So roads can't grow, or roads struggle to grow. So that's a problem. And as a result of that, there's lots of traffic and then lots of pollution. Okay, in Rio, 5,000 people die a year from like pollution. Okay. And another reason as well, you would probably argue is it's in the question. LIC and NEs are usually quite poor, so they struggle to afford the investment in roads, infrastructure, public transport. Okay. There you go. Let's carry on. Okay. Calculate the range. So literally just biggest take smallest. So you literally just look at this. Okay, find the biggest, find the smallest, take them away. Now at the time in 2018, 1.7 was an interesting question. It threw a few people off. Suggest reasons for inequalities in education in urban areas of the UK. Use figure 4. 4 marks. So, if you get a question like this, remember, think about what you know. It's going to be EC times 2. Or it could be ECS 1. It could be a really good ECS. Okay, the question kind of gives us that space. Reasons. Okay, you can talk about 1. You've got figure 4 with specific data. So you should use that specific data. Okay. Now what we can see in the figure, pick it apart. What you can see in the figure is areas in the centre of the city perform okay. Okay, you know their grades are pretty good. Inner city tend to struggle. Suburbs on the outskirts, they seem to be okay. So you're looking at suggesting reasons for this. Now again, I do not want to get into, I don't want to really get into this too deeply, okay, because, you know, we're not here for that, but a few things you could mention. In the centre, across the UK, there has been high investment in education. So, you know, the real city centre areas of urban areas in the UK, they've had really strong investment to improve education. So that's one thing you could mention. You could mention that the inner city, though, has seen a lack of investment. And as well, what you could argue as well is they are often deprived areas with social issues which are having an effect in bringing grades down. Kids have got a lot more on the suburbs. Okay, you could argue you've got kids from sort of they're from privilege. Here's where I forget to spell privilege. I've definitely spelled that wrong. Privilege. What's wrong with me today? Privilege. They may have money for tutors. Do you know what I mean? They've got more. They've got more capability to invest in education. The kids are all looked after, better fed, less social issues. So, yeah, something to bear in mind. It's a tough question, that one. Okay, let's have a look. Outline. So, evidence comment. Or if you're from a different school, that might be point explain. If you like a Peel model, like that could be point explain. Because I realise I'm now across school. I'm famous now. Okay. One way that national migration has led to a change in the character of a named UK city. So for my guys, that's Sheffield. Okay, and we're talking about national migration, so for migration within the UK. And we're talking about the character, so like the culture of a city, the way it looks, okay, the way it feels. So you could say, people moving from across the UK have brought their dialects and ways of life and foods to Sheffield. You could argue that to encourage more national migration, Sheffield has regenerated, so its character has been upgraded and made better to encourage people to move in. Yeah, so here really your revision is important. Okay. 1.9. So let's pull this apart a little bit then. So, to what extent has urban change created environmental challenges in a UK city you have studied? 9 marks plus spag. So, of course, our city is Sheffield. Okay. Right. What you've got to think about here then, okay, is your opinion. Okay, you've got to know where you go. So you might think to yourself, no, I don't think it has created challenges. I think it has, but I don't think it's completely created challenges. So you do your tick cross model. You might disagree and say, no, I don't think it's created challenges. So you go disagree, agree, disagree, or you could be the other way round. You could do that. Remember, we want a little bit of balance. So really, you should try and put that in. You want to say immediately what your opinion is. Use words like partially. Okay. You know, you've got to give like a given amount of your agreement. So we're pulling it apart a little bit here. Obviously, it's ECS times 3. Definitely with a summary at the end. Now, something I've been talking about recently in my year 10 classes in year 11, it'll be wise for you to listen to this. New phrase I've started using is unlocking. Okay, actually, I'm gonna draw a padlock. Here we go. Hang on. I'm gonna go for this. Here we go. Oh, look at this. This is already going amazing. Hang on. Look at that. This would be an art teacher. There we go. Boom. Right. So I'm talking about unlocking. If you unlock that phrase, urban change, you are giving yourself things to write about. So if we unlock urban change, what we mean by urban change is migration, terrible, I apologise, and regeneration. Okay. So, you know, we're talking about, well, you know, has people moving into Sheffield caused environmental problems? Okay, and you might argue, well, no, it hasn't. No, because Sheffield is one of the greenest cities in Europe. It's surrounded by the Peak District. It's got good public transport. So let's just get some of these down then, just so we can be clear on it. So if you disagree, then you might say, well, no, actually, because it's one of the greenest cities in the UK. You might say that it's close to the Peak District. So they're like very conscious of their environmental practices. They've got really good public transport. You know, Sheffield has got an extensive public transport network. You might argue that they've got, I can't remember what the number is off the top of my head, but I think they've got the most green spaces, I think, of anywhere in the UK. I'm not sure. Okay, you might have to check that. But then you might say, well, actually, no, there are some issues. You know, some reasons I may agree with the statement that there is challenges. Traffic is a big problem in Sheffield. Okay, it is growing. Okay, it's getting bigger. There is a problem with sprawl in Sheffield as the city grows outwards. So consider what your opinion is. Okay, and be really clear in supporting that. Use your tick cross model. If you do this at the side of your paper, it's absolutely fine. Don't worry about it. Like, you can do that, it's fine. Remember to use paragraphs. Okay, really important. And your hook back wants to hook back to that idea of challenge, you know. So your stretch, if you can get it back, wants to hook back to that. You know, what is it? Is it a bad thing or not? Again, I'm not here to answer the questions, but hopefully this gives you a bit of an idea of, like I say, the types of questions you'll come across. Now, economic world, I am not going to do. I'm not studying this. We're not doing it. Okay, so I'm just going to scoot past this. Okay. Here we go. Right, resources. Here we go. So we do this and then water. So we've got a map. What is the difference between Africa and North America's share of world oil? If you look, 1 square is 1% of world consumption. So literally, just count the squares. Okay, just count the difference between the two of them. That's all you're doing, and then you're putting the answer there. Okay, nice and easy. Right, let's have a look at this then. Free marker, so ECS. They like lots of I say they like lots of AO1 here. They like lots of AO1 everywhere, but really like get some good knowledge in. Figure 9, you've got to use this, okay? And your own understanding suggest, so hidden explain, how inequalities in the consumption of resources influence well-being. Now, generally what we're saying here is areas that consume lots of oil generally they've got a higher quality, a higher standard of living, because they've got basically more stuff that needs oil. Okay, cars, electricity. There we go. So they've got more stuff that needs oil, and because of that, their standard of living is higher. They're providing more electricity. They're making more stuff. They're offering more jobs. That's the idea behind this. Okay. So just bear that in mind. I am sorry if any of my explanations are not very good. It's been a while since, but but this is good though. I've not looked at a 2018 paper for a while, so if anything, I don't know what the next questions are going to be. I really don't. So it's like I'm doing the exam for the first time as well. So just bear that in mind. Right. Outline. So evidence comment. One advantage of the trend towards agribusiness. So agribusiness is large business farming for profit, lots of crops, lots of yield, lots of money. You can have a few things for this. It helps Britain to be self-sufficient, can provide its own food. It's British business which can be taxed, offers jobs to people. There's a few things you could talk about here. So evidence comment, just bear that in mind. Graph showing the UK's energy mix. So energy mix is the different sources of energy we get different sources we get our energy from. As you can see, we've got 2006-2016. Coal has really dropped off, look. Gas has gone up a little bit. Nuclear, small amount. Bioenergy, wind has appeared, look. So you can clearly see there's been a growth in renewable. Oh, yeah, you might be able to hear the sound of soaring. Sorry. What is he doing? What's he doing? Is he cutting the cooker in two? I don't know. I think we're good. Oh dear, half-term life. Right, using figure 10, okay, in your own understanding, discuss the issues arising from the UK's energy mix. Right, 6 marks. This is quite an open question. There's quite a few things you could talk about here. Issues is very open. You could talk about so many different things here. Don't be scared by it. ECS times 2. And the UK's energy mix is changing. We know that. So how is it changing? Renewables are going up. Gas is going up. Coal is going down. Nuclear's gone up a little bit. So basically this discourse, in a way, it's like an in-depth explain. You're kind of just offering some explanation of like, why is it a problem? Well, think about the problems with these sources of energy. Renewable, for example, they can be unreliable. The sun's not always shining, the wind's not always blowing. At the moment, they're becoming cheaper, but they're still quite expensive. Okay? When we're talking about non-renewables, we're talking about issues. You could say, well, there's been an increase in gas. Gas has gone up, and that's pollutive. Okay. You could say that the decrease in coal could be an issue because it may mean it could slow our reaction to power demand. So what I mean by that is, and it's important to bear this in mind, with electricity, supply must always meet demand. You can't store that much electricity. So what my year 10s will know this, 'cause I've talked about this till I'm blue in the face, okay? There's not a battery big enough in the world, even though Elon Musk is trying to change that, there's not a battery big enough in the world to store the electricity needed for a country. So say if it's a really sunny day, you can't get a load of it, you can't store a load of electricity and save it for a cloudy day. You can't do that. There's not a battery big enough. So supply must always meet demand. Okay, so if demand goes up, supply has to go up with it. Otherwise, you'll get blackouts, you'll get problems. Coal, oil, gas, they are quick to react. You can start up a coal power station very quickly. You literally put coal in the boilers and it is working. Renewables are not like that. If the sun isn't shining, the wind isn't blowing, you can't take power from it. So an issue with pulling away from non-renewables is we can't react as quickly to demand, and demand can change incredibly quickly. Okay, so just bear that in mind. So yeah, these questions often they can be quite sort of difficult in the first stages, but just slow down and read it. One last thing before I move on. Use it. You have got percentages. Use them. Okay? Use them. What would be really good for this, because they do like manipulation of data, if you worked out the difference here, like it's very simple maths, but if you was to say in 10 years coal has decreased from what, 37.5%, and it is decreased by 9, so it's decreased by the difference between those two. If you were to give that number, it's really good manipulation. They like that. Okay, my quick maths isn't strong. Right, now listen, I am not going to do food because for my academy we do not do food. So if you're watching this from another academy, I'm sorry, but we don't do food, so I'm going to move on. I'm going to do water. Water is the only one you do in resource management. So you do not do food. So my guys, you do not do food. You do not do energy. You do water. So we'll finish off with this. Right, let's have a look then. Name one country with 91 to 100% access to basic drinking water services. Well, the colour's dark blue. You've got your eyes. Use them. Okay, use them. You can clearly see Algeria, Libya, Egypt, Tunisia. Okay, so any one of those four, you got yourself a mark. How many African countries shown in figure 12 have less than 50% access to basic drinking water? Less than 50%. Look, that there. So all you're doing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 countries. There you go. Answer's 10. What percentage of the 48 countries for which data is shown had less than 50% access to drinking water? So what you're doing is, you know you've got 10. Okay, so you've got 10%, 48. Answer to 1 decimal place. Okay, there you go. Now, oh, actually, no, hang on. Yeah, 10 of 48. What is the percent of that? Yeah. Right, okay. Describe the distribution of countries that had 76 to 90% access to basic drinking water. Distribution requires you to look at more than one area. Got to look at more than one area because you're looking at the spread. So if we have a look, what's the number? 76 to 90. So we're looking at this one here. Let me just highlight it so it's nice and clear. This one here. 76 to 90 distribution. Well, we can see that most of them are in the south, such as Botswana. However, there are some others located near the coasts, near the coast of Africa. For example, Morocco, Senegal, Ghana. There is one in the east of Africa, Djibouti. Okay, so you're looking for an idea of most and an idea of least. Okay. Outline, evidence comment. That is a terrible. What went on there? Evidence comment. One reason why countries have a limited availability of water. So many different things you could talk about here. You could talk about geology. We've got permeable rock, so the water seeps through into aquifers, hard to get. You could talk about wealth. You could talk about climate. So many different things you could talk about here. Only one of them though, so if you did climate, it would be evidence and comment. There we go. Right, last question, 5-5. Okay, so let's have a little look. Explain how different strategies can be used to make water supplies more sustainable. So just have a look at this. Have a look at this question and just pick it apart just for a second. Think about the ECS. Okay. Remember, think about what you know. ECS times 2. Explain AO1, AO2. Okay, just basic knowledge understanding. Keyword, sustainable. You should try and link back to that. So understand what sustainable means. Okay. Top tip, little hint in this question. Can you see it? I can see it. I can see it. But mind you, I'm the teacher. I'm going to be able to see it. Have a look. Let me zoom in. Plural. Wants you to talk about more than one strategy. Okay. So that's your little hint. Okay. It's quite a broad and open question. You could talk about large. So you could talk about Lesotho. You could talk about Kielder. Why not? Yeah. You could talk about something large like that. You could talk about something small. You could talk about Wackle. You could talk about domestic supply. Things like grey water. Okay. The question is deliberately open. So you could talk about a large scale, small scale. The important thing is that you've got to kind of mention more. You've got to mention more than one strategy. Okay. So if you're doing Wackle, you should really talk about, say, a tanker and a Johad. Okay, you should talk about more than one. If you're talking about Lesotho, you really want to make sure that you're getting in that ECS times 2, lots of detail. Okay, you could talk about the water going into the River Vaal. You could talk about Katsay Dam. With Kielder, again, you can talk about the dam. You could talk about the hydroelectric power as well. Okay. But it's all linking back to that. you've got to make it more sustainable. So you've got to understand that sustainability here is maintaining supplies for today and not damaging them for tomorrow. Okay? Right. So you finish your paper. Tactics then, you know this now. Okay? You go all the way back to the start of your paper, and the first thing you do, okay, is you check your low markers. Okay, so you check your low markers first, your low tariffs. What this helps you do is it helps reset your brain. Okay, it gets you back into the zone, because it's low tariffs that people often miss. Okay, so you check your low tariffs first. Then check your mid to high, but important, go in focused. Check your stretch. Make sure you're hooking back to the question. Check your evidence. Are you using enough key AO1? Are you using enough technical language? Okay. There you go. So, that was 2018, paper 2, walkthrough. Remember what this video is. It is looking at papers, the ways they're written. The more familiar you are with the way these papers look, the way they sound, the way they feel, the better off you will be walking into the exam. What I want as your teacher is for you to walk in to that exam and not be scared or anxious about seeing one of these, about seeing an AQA 8035 exam paper. That's what I do not want as your teacher. I want you to be confident and familiar with how these are laid out. Obviously, you're not going to have seen the questions before. You will not have seen these before. You know, like, I'm not sitting here saying this question's going to be in your exam in 2 years' time. I'm not saying that. But the format of the question, the way they're written, the way they're presented, you will see that. Okay? Guys, as always, it's a pleasure. I hope you're all getting on okay. And you'll be hearing from me soon. Take care, everybody.